Let's move to the meat of today, which is interesting conversations that we'll continue to have with stakeholders from Pakistan as well as stakeholders from KSA. The first one is the one that I get to host, which is a fireside chat with Courtney Powell. I'd love to invite Courtney to the stage, and I'll introduce you in the meantime. So Courtney is the COO of 500 startups. She's been tasked to help 500 scale globally, as well as driving the day-to-day operations across the team to pursue 500's vision. Courtney was also on the operator side, so she was a co-founder and CEO of Public Demand. She went on to become the CEO of Agent Pronto, one of the largest real estate agent referral services in North America, which was acquired by Fidelity National. I'd like all of you to give a big round of applause to Courtney, and looking forward to the conversation. So, Courtney, is there anything that I left out in your introduction that you'd like to add? Anything that's been a part of your journey that you think I should have mentioned in there and, you'd like to highlight yourself?
No, I mean, I think it's, you've done an excellent job, and I'm really excited to get to be here today with the Pack Launch community, which I sincerely believe has been so instrumental in the spotlight that has been shown on Pakistan and what I believe will be a really tremendous outcome in the future. But even better to be hosted, with you, Meena, having been an investor, of course, in your company. So no, thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you. So first question. Ecosystem building is hard, right? So building in emerging markets is even harder. Courtney, why are you doing this? What is your why behind all of the work that you've been putting in to build ecosystems across MENA and now even looking at Pakistan?
Sure. So let me give a little bit of context for 500. 500 did launch initially in 2010 in Silicon Valley, a little office out of Mountain View, California, but pretty quickly decided that we wanted to invest not just within the 2 miles of Sand Hill Road, but also all around the world. So we began investing first in a series of funds out of Latin America, then Southeast Asia, then the Middle East, so on and so forth. So today we're managing nearly $3 billion in assets under management, and we are investing, actually we just hit our 92nd country that we're investing in. And through that journey, what really came to crystallization for the partnership was that we not only believed that venture could create incredible financial outcomes for the limited partners who are backing our funds, and of course the startups themselves, but also that entrepreneurship should be viewed as a tool of economic diplomacy and economic development as well. So by bringing capital into markets that were perhaps less developed than, say, the US or the UK, we would ultimately be contributing to the positive development of that society and economy. So that's the shared kind of mission behind 500 and all of the investment partners and the owners today, is we really believe that that is our way to contribute to society. Invest in fantastic founders and let them create jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I completely resonate with that mission. I believe entrepreneurship is one of the strongest economic forces in the world, and people have the power to change their lives, their societies, their countries based on the businesses that they're able to grow and scale.
Yes,
so,
and if I could actually just add one thing, which I think is really important here. We are financial investors first and foremost. And, we changed our name in 2019 from 500 Startups to 500 Global. And part of that was because nearly 10 years on into our investment thesis, we were seeing the returns that warranted doubling down into this conviction of investing not just in the US, but also in emerging markets. So with almost 50 unicorns across our portfolio today, nearly half come from outside of the United States. So the returns are there, the talent is there all around the world, and the financial outcome, I think, is really what creates more and more conviction.
Yeah, so I mean, there is financial sense and financial wins behind it. In terms of your own personal journey, what have been the most notable wins for you? And they don't necessarily have to be where you were able to earn the most returns for your LPs, but like in general, what have been some highs that you were really excited about when, if you were on your deathbed, 100 years from now, you'd be able to look back and think, okay, I'm so happy I got to do that.
That's such a great question. I mean, first and foremost, I would say the single most important lesson I've learned in my career is that it's really about who you're building with. What we do every day is, of course, exhilarating, but it's also very, very hard.
Exhausting.
And any founder out there, anybody who runs a business knows that it's tough day in and day out. So just getting to work together with our team around the world is truly, I think, kind of one of the greatest experiences I've had. I will also say, I'm born in the U.S. I'm from Texas originally. I moved to Saudi Arabia almost 3 years ago. That has been an incredible journey.
I didn't know that. Do you live in Saudi now?
Yes, so I live in Riyadh. My husband's here. My family's here.
So you really committed, huh?
I'm very committed, yes. But I say that because I think, again, it just speaks to our conviction about the fact that the rest of the world, which a lot of kind of the financial world believed was mostly China and India, is much, much larger. And we could see what was happening in the Middle East and Southeast Asia and LATAM, and we felt that Saudi in particular was going to have a very large impact on the rest of the developing world. So being able to be here and see the transformation that has happened has been sincerely a real honor.
Yeah. So kind of back to your personal journey, have there been any notable losses that, again, looking back, you'd be like, okay, that's something I missed out on or something I wish I'd done sooner?
Well, that's a good question. I think generally it's always going to be around people, right? Again, when I began at 500 and became COO 5 years ago, we were a much smaller organization. I think we had less than 60 people. Today, we're almost 300. There's a lot of learning that goes just into scale. Of course, you wish you would have known those lessons sooner. Yeah. But I think you have to take the wins and losses as one and just learn from it and move forward.
So are you, and I mean, I'm asking this as somebody who moved from the VC side of the table to the operator side of the table. Is there any urge to start to be on the builder side of things again, or are you truly just enjoying this journey?
So I think I have the most fantastic role at 500 because although I do invest out of one of our funds here in the Middle East, I primarily think about the business of 500 and building 500 to the scale and to the level of impact that we all know that we can get to. So I absolutely still feel like I get to operate every single day. And certainly at my core, I identify as an entrepreneur first and foremost.
Yeah, because you were on the operator side.
Yes, and in fact, 500 invested in one of my tech startups back in 2011, 2012, and so
when you were a founder.
When I was a founder, and that's how I got to know the team. Although they were very, very small back then, so for me, it's been a real full cycle journey, and it's also I think what gives the entire 500 leadership team, who are primarily operators, that empathy for founders and that respect for founders as well.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critical. Honestly, I was a VC before I was an operator, and now that I'm an operator, I realize I was probably a pretty bad VC because there was just so much that I didn't know about the journey before I was actually in the field. Okay, so now kind of switching to Pakistan. I know 500 has been looking at Pakistan for a few years now, and there was like some buzz in the market, I think a couple of years back, that, oh my God, 500 is coming into Pakistan, and there was some buzz. So what is it that you find interesting about Pakistan as a market?
Sure. So we actually made our first investment into a Pakistani company in 2016, which was Markhor, which later went on to become Adam Shoes, the team behind Adam Shoes. So we had a pretty good taste early on for the level of talent that really existed. Now that team in particular, we brought to participate in our accelerator in the Bay Area. But ultimately, what we want to be able to do is have local teams, local presence. We think that's really important to see kind of markets developed. Since that time, we've invested over $20 million into Pakistani companies, and that's across seed, Series A. I don't think we've made a Series B investment there yet. And really what's driving the focus for us is really the fact that, actually very similar to this region, you have a burgeoning youth population. You have more and more support, I think, also coming from the government to want to see entrepreneurship play a role in economic development for Pakistan. You have tremendous kind of coverage in terms of Wi-Fi and mobile adoptions. But more importantly, when you kind of dig down into some of the numbers, the first visit I made to Pakistan in 2019, I remember somebody telling me that you hear about this population size of 200 million, 230 million people, but less than 300,000 people in Pakistan have ever made investment into the stock market. The amount of upside and growth that there is still to be seen in terms of just even infrastructure, I think is really exciting. So I sincerely believe that Pakistan is going to have a very strong rise. And as an investor, you want to be, we call it the inflection point. So we invest at the inflection point, meaning we want to come into a market before it's been fully established. So we're able to spot talent very easily, build out a network very easily, and then grow with that country. And that's what we've done successfully. So today we're investing into Pakistan primarily from our US fund as well as our Southeast Asia fund and more from our Middle East fund series. But one day we do sincerely hope to have a more local presence in Pakistan.
So what do you think is stopping you from like kind of that commitment? You know, you committed to Saudi and you moved here, but like what is stopping the Pakistan fund from being formed as soon as possible? You know, what is holding you back?
Sure. When we look at kind of moving into a market, there's a few different things that we want to really be aware of. Of course, we want to see the opportunity set, which, as I mentioned, you know, we believe in more and more. I think it's really important that the regulatory framework also be supportive in terms of being able to establish your funds, to be able to, you know, kind of repatriate capital as needed from a venture perspective. I think you're seeing a lot of that effort now taking place, as you can tell by the fact that there are now funds, you know, being started there, et cetera. And I think also, of course, the stability, the government stability is really important as well for us to be able to, you know, ensure that we're going to be able to have a platform long term. I think something that hopefully is very evident about 500 is, you know, we don't come into a market and leave, right? We are there for the long term, trying to create sustainable outcomes and contribution within that country. And so we are very careful about how we do that and when we do that, because for us it is it's a marriage.
Absolutely. So, you know, tell us a little bit more about the KSA market as well, because there's a lot of startups in the room, and you know, we heard a lot of them pitch in the morning. Quite a few of them are going to actually pitch in the second half also, and they're from various sectors, and they're here because they're truly interested in Saudi as a market, and also the Saudi investment market as a potential source of funding for them. Is there any advice that you would give them, or is there anything in particular that you think they need to look out for before they kind of jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've opened our first office here in Riyadh in 2018. So we've seen quite a bit of the development since that time. And I think if we're talking about the startups in terms of coming to KSA, I think it's really important to spend a pretty significant amount of time here to try and understand really what the opportunity is for the business and the strategy that you're running, what the local requirements are. Saudi has done a tremendous job, especially in the last 18 months, of making the regulatory framework a lot easier to navigate. It does still take kind of time and awareness to be able to do that. And I also think it's really important to establish a local network. Saudi is definitely not a fly-in, fly-out market.
Yeah, they don't like parachute founders or even parachute funds. They like you to commit.
Definitely not. I mean, why would they? It has its own, you know, kind of booming economy and ecosystem, and so they want, you know, and founders should want to build real businesses, and that means having, you know, real presence here. But I think it takes time. I think now you have things like, I want to highlight the garage. I was just speaking with somebody about this earlier. It's a great location for founders to come in and kind of get connected and get to know people. Of course, 500 Invest, you know, we're the most active investor in this region, the most active investor in Saudi. And we have an incredible platform to be able to bring companies to our accelerator, as you know, and help get you connected. But it's a very hyper-local market. You want to be here. You want to understand the regulation, what's happening, and be able to be a part of it firsthand.
And same question for funds, because we're now seeing a lot of funds also flock towards the Middle East to try and find LPs.
Yes, this is my favorite topic to talk about. Yes, right now there's certainly a belief that you can, you know, fly to the Middle East once and walk away with a fund, and that is definitely
bags of money.
Definitely, you know, not the case. And I think it's a pretty offensive take as well. I mean, I think the capital markets here, the LP base across the GCC is very sophisticated. They've been investing in the top funds around the world for over a decade. They're incredibly spoiled for choice right now, which is a testament to the platform that they have built. So my advice to VC funds, you know, coming to the region is kind of two things that are pretty blunt. Number one, if you're coming here to visit without being asked, like, you're going to have to do a lot of work to get in front of the right people. Number two, most of the funds that are being invested in right now, I won't say most, but many of the funds that are being invested in are within a strategic area that the GCC is looking at. So that can vary by country, but typically they'll be looking at things like, whether you're investing in, it could be food security, it could be healthcare, it could be manufacturing.
Yeah.
They're looking for a strategic angle and a value add to back these fund managers.
Aligned with their vision for where the region needs to get to.
Yes. So I think, all of these considerations are really important, but just like I would say to founders, there's an incredible ecosystem here, both in terms of LPs and VCs across this region. And I think people should want to be an authentic contributor to those ecosystems.
Yeah, focus on value creation and not treat any region like an ATM is probably.
Good plan.
So last question. There's a lot of doom and gloom. We heard some of it in the morning as well. Everybody has their perspective on it. There's like funding drying up, things dying, people, in financial stress. Courtney, is there a silver lining? And what is the silver lining that you see that we should all kind of, think about in terms of, or like the perspective that we should look at for this region in general?
Sure. So, I think rather than maybe focus on anecdotal silver linings, I'd like to share a little bit about how we characterize emerging markets. So for us, when we look at an ecosystem, we say it's either nascent, emerging, or advanced. And most emerging markets around the world, they will spend just in the nascent, to go from nascent to emerging, they will need something around the order of 15 years of direct government intervention into that ecosystem before you really start to see development. So the fact that it can take longer than expected, I think that's just a matter of expectations. If you think about Silicon Valley, for example, we had decades of investment coming from defense, coming from DARPA, coming from the US government to really get the whole Stanford scene and the venture ecosystem going. So for many markets, we're just still in the early innings. So the silver lining is the fact that it is a natural development cycle. As long as we have kind of best practices in play and we are seeing that government support, we're seeing the commercial support, we're seeing people continue to invest, those are all positive signs headed in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney. Thank you for giving us your time. And it was lovely speaking to you today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Courtney.